the dignitaries, that is Professor Rajiv Ahuja, Director IIT Ropar, Dr. Anita Agarwal, Scientist EDST, Government of India, Dr. Rama Venugopal, and all the other dignitaries. Uh, this is a very exciting day today that we are holding BID Hub third annual workshop. Innovation is indeed a challenge, and India is well poised to achieve success in developing biomedical devices. If all the stakeholders like industries, doctor, engineer, technicians come together at a single platform to do much needed brainstorming, the need to bring them all together was felt by PGI Chandigarh, and Professor GD Puri was instrumental, and he was instrumental in connecting with each of the institute which were situated at Chandigarh, Mohali, Panchkula, and other states. And along with him, Professor Matthew made a proposal to Department of Science and Technology for sanction of biomedical instrument and devices hub, a center for innovation, design, and clinical validation. This was in the year 2015, resulting in a full functional biomedical instrument and device hub in 2018. The multidisciplinary center is facilitating device development by acting as a bridge between the engineer and clinician. The hub acts as a node for Crick Institute. I must mention that Professor Grover was also instrumental from Crick Institute side in connecting with the various institutes. And these institutes are IIT Ropar, IIT Mandi, Punjab University Chandigarh, MTech, ISER, Punjab Engineering College, CSIO. In the region for a diverse range of medical devices, research and development. The center is also working together the mission of Make in India by promoting the indigenous development of high quality medical device through innovation, design, and clinical validation step. The hub has already delivered indigenous medical devices prototype, patented and commercialized novel medical device. The center is equipped with the calibrated analyzer to perform the most medical devices. The fully functional hub is currently doing in-house testing of the different medical equipment type already in use at PGIMER setting. Notably, the newly procured medical devices are also being subjected to the in-house calibration. That is a testing center at BID Hub for their performance and safety evaluation. This practice of that is the testing of equipment before the procurement and installation of the hospital in the hospital ensure critical analysis of the medical devices regarding its accuracy and defined standard, thereby improving the patient care at PGI Chandigarh and saving the cost. With the clinician experience and expertise at PGI Chandigarh, the center is moving ahead toward becoming a certified body for validating and testing the medical device in the coming time, thereby solving the greatest challenge of clinical validation faced by the Indian medical devices research and industry. I understand that the current workshop is being planned with the idea of updating the knowledge about the certification and the aim of Make in India devices, as well as guiding the young innovators and in designing their devices not only user friendly but also market friendly. I once again congratulate PGI team and all the participating team for taking up this much needed idea of bringing all the stakeholder at one. Particularly, I congratulate Professor G.D. Puri uh, and providing part of innovators to convert their ideas into prototype and product with the help of industries as well as academia in the region. I am sure that the delegate will be benefited by the lectures and the interaction today. So once again, congratulations to all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those encouraging words. As you have been supporting this hub since beginning, we thank you for joining today in spite of your busy schedule. I must tell the viewers that I pulled Dr. Jagatram out of the operating room for half an hour so that he can share his ideas. He was operating, and I'm sorry, sir, disturbing you, but I think this is a good, encouraging sentiments and the words for the hub. Thank you once again. Now I invite.
Thank you, Dr. Saab, and thank you all the participants because it was nice to meet so many people. Because I was in the operation theater, I came directly, and so it was nice for me also. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I invite Professor Rajiv Huja, who is director of IIT, and this is a good opportunity to introduce him because he has recently joined from coming back from Sweden. He is a current director of IIT, and earlier he was a computational material science professor at Uppsala University, Sweden. He is one of the most highly cited researcher of Sweden, an elected fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry, London, UK, and also an elected member of Swedish Royal Society of Sciences. He is on the board of European High Pressure Research Group, as well as of the executive board of the International Association for the Advancement of High Pressure Science and Technology. Professor Ahuja, in the past, we have been collaborating with IIT Roper in a number of projects, both in the hub as well as outside the hub. And during the COVID pandemic, we designed a remote controlled trolley as well as remote controlled drone for use in the COVID hospital for transporting the consumables to the isolated wards as well as for transporting samples. Thank you very much for joining us, sir, and we are looking forward to hearing from you.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Professor Puri and Professor Jagatram, in giving me this opportunity to come here on this platform and share my views and hear from your side. And as you told that I just started in April this year, and I got a phone call from Professor Jagatram. At that time, I was new, and this is the first time I met both Professor Puri and Jagatram, and it's although it's not a offline meeting, but I'm looking forward to see you in person also, and I will like to welcome you, all of you, to come to Roper and share your views with our young faculty also. So the aim of this workshop is related to the biomedical instrumentation and device hub. I would like to tell you that you as a doctor, you are the biggest user of the technology. If you go to any hospital in ICU, you can see all those gadgets at one place. It's only the medical hospital, and you are the doctors, you are the main user for that. And coming from Ropar or from IIT, we are only developing the technology, and you are the biggest user, and you are using them to the benefit of the society and the benefit of the country, and we really appreciate that. I will like to tell you that when we talk about interdisciplinary research, it's one of the key also for our new education policy. And what we have seen a good example of what is the interdisciplinary research by joining this hub and all those institutions which are putting all their effort in a one place, and we are leading towards indigenous technology and make in India concept. So and when you talk about innovation, innovation is very important, and especially when we have this young population and the young generation, and we should put more effort on innovation. Actually, right now, we should not follow the other countries or what they are doing. We should develop our own technology, and this technology will come innovation. Innovation will come from the freedom. When we give a freedom to our student, freedom to our young faculty, and they will be innovative. So they should not be following one path which their professors tells or their guide tells. So innovation is, in that sense, it's very important. And the collaboration, when we talk about collaboration between, like in this case, PGI or IIT Ropar and others, it's very important. I can give you example what is important, why we are working in a collaborative mode, because I was in Uppsala for almost 30 years, and then I was also collaborating with the people in Karolinska. And in Karolinska, this is totally medical institute, as you know that, and we have a huge, one of the biggest biomedical center in Uppsala. So we all working in a collaboration mode. That's the way, because they are the smaller countries, so they say that we cannot do everything, so we have to work in a collaboration mode and to achieve the goal. So one important example, when we give a talk, we always tell about how important is the collaboration. For example, we have a professor in Uppsala, his name was Carl von Linné. He was a 300 years back professor of medical science, and he is the one who has given this classification of the plants what we exist right now. And then we have a professor in physics, his name was Anders Celsius. And you can see that once Linné and Anders Celsius, they meet. And maybe you know Anders Celsius, he has given the temperature scale, what you use every day. And one day they met Linné and Anders, and then Linné, Anders told that he has this temperature scale. And in that, he told that water was boiling at 0 degree and melting on 100 degree. Then Linné told him that, Anders, it sounds to be not very good, because this water is boiling at 0 and freezing at 100 degree. So why don't you revert your scale? So Anders immediately follows that, and he reverts the scale. And so now we see that the water is boiling at 100 and melting at 0 degree. So if we don't have those kind of collaboration even that time, we still using maybe the temperature scale with water is boiling at 0 degrees. So this is all due to the collaboration. So we have been working in a collaborative mode, and we have to thrive for, and this we can achieve combining your medical expertise with the instrumental knowledge or technology from IIT Ropar or any other technological institute. So this will be a great way to achieve these goals. And with that, I will like to conclude my remark. And only thing I want to say that we are open for this kind of interdisciplinary collaboration, and we want to have this kind of activity more and more between different institutions, especially with PGI Chandigarh. And we want to make this area is a medical technology hub, and it should not only lead northern India, but we will set up example for whole India, and in the end, we will set up example for the whole world. With that, I will like to thank again Professor Jagatram and Professor Puri and Professor Matthew for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Professor Rajiv. We are glad to have you here in the meeting, and I would like to request Professor Matthew to please share a vote of thanks for him.
We are very grateful indeed to Professor Ahuja for taking the time to join us in this particular meeting. So it is a privilege to listen to you and your vast experience. And you have highlighted beautifully the key thing that we're trying to do through this hub and in this hub, which is to bring partners from diverse fields of expertise and experience together to a common platform with the single goal of providing better healthcare to patients, whether they are patients in the community or patients in the hospital. So on that note, it is very encouraging that you have opened your doors of the institution to us. We will continue to meet with you, collaborate with you, and ensure that your vision for this hub, as well as for the healthcare sector in this region, reach its full fruition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Matthew. Now I would like to invite Professor Puri to have a vote of thanks to our directors.
Professor Jagatram, Professor Ahuja, Madam Venugopal, Dr. Javed Agarwal, Dr. Arlake Chakravarti. I must thank all the dignitaries for joining, taking the time out from the busy schedule and be the part of this brief inaugural ceremony before we go to the specific lectures. I thank the hub team for organizing the whole thing seamlessly, and in spite of the problems of getting everybody on board in the current pandemic, they have done best to get all the participants and speakers online to ensure the unhindered activity of the hub. Thank you very much, Professor Jagatram sir, again for sparing time out of your busy schedule from the operating room. I hope this has not disturbed grossly your surgical list, which you have always, as you probably some of you don't know, his surgical list is about 40 to 50 patients every day, and bringing him out for half an hour means 5-6 surgeries. So I'm sure he will compensate by working extra after this thing. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Ahuja and Dr. Rama Venugopal. And we'll continue with our lecture with this after this. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Professor Puri. Thank you, Dr. Jagatram. And I would like to request Professor Matthew to please introduce to our eminent speaker for the day, Mrs. Rama Venugopal.
Thank you very much, Saurabh. I will leave the formal introduction to you. I will just like to briefly mention here that we met Madam Rama Venugopal online for the first time in our recent DST Hub review meetings. And during interaction, whether online and not in person, we learned that she has tremendous expertise and, more than anything else, the drive and passion to make sure that the goals of the hub, which is located at Chandigarh as well as at Chennai, are actually achieving and fulfilling their purpose. Thereafter, it was mooted at that meeting to have a WhatsApp group in which expertise from DST and other agencies will be pooled together. And I'm very pleased to note that Madam Venugopal is one of the key drivers there also. She's getting people together through her institution and her network of experienced people to make this vision move forward. So, Madam, welcome for this particular session that you're going to share with us. And Saurabh, you may read out the formal introduction.
Yes, thank you, Professor Matthew. And here we have Mrs. Rama Venugopal, the Executive Director of Value Added Corporate Service Private Limited, Chennai. And she is into more than 25 years of consulting experience with over 20 plus years connect with healthcare sector in South India. And she is heading a management consulting organization offering wide range of consulting solution to various industries like manufacturing, healthcare, ITs, and management system consulting and strategic advisory services like M&A and funding facilitation joined collaborations, and she is also present the Association of Indian Medical Device Industry (AMED) as South India Joint Coordinator. And we welcome you, ma'am, and we would like to be enlightened today by your insights on the medical devices and related fields. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A very good morning to each one of you. Thank you so much for the opportunity extended. Is my voice audible?
Yes,
Clear?
ma'am, you are audible, clearly audible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. And I have been attending the BTDT sessions at Chennai Hub for the last 3-4 years, or the annual review and the project reviews. In addition to this, I used to participate in many of these mentoring sessions. I'm a member of TIE Chennai, an active member for many years. And that's where actually I developed a passion to sit with innovators and young minds and young entrepreneurs. And considering my healthcare consulting background for almost about 20 years, anything on health technologies and medical technologies, TIE Chennai used to refer those startups and uh, innovators to me. Just they used to come and present their pitches and their business ideas and things like that. Then I used to spend a lot of time mentoring them. And honestly, in the last few years, I hardly find much time to be part of this. But in addition to this, a lot of health technology innovations and pitch fest, I participate in some of these industry engagements. And this is my industry work. And of course, in IMED provides me an opportunity whenever there is an industry academia interactions also. And all these technical institutions, engineering institutions have their own TBIs, and the TBIs are also focusing on a lot of these innovations and startup initiatives. At least I can easily say that I've been part of this engagement for almost for about 10 years. I had seen the strengths, I had seen the weaknesses, I had seen the opportunities that are available. And it's kind of my own SWOT of my understanding of the startup ecosystem, especially when it comes to health technologies and medical technologies, medtech. The kind of the growth that the health technologies had seen, and the kind of struggles that hardware device innovators face. These are two different extremes. And I just wanted to run through a very short presentation. The presentation today is basically based on the topic, and which is actually the need of the hour. Even beyond this presentation, during the question and answer session, I would like to share my thoughts also. First, please allow me to share presentation today. Is the screen visible? Yeah, is it visible? The screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Today, actually, I would like to touch upon the need for this standards and certifications in the medical devices domain. Now it is the need of the hour, but when I was interacting with all the startups and innovators 10 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, the 5 years ago, there was no need. But I used to touch upon being a management system consultant, where I had spent a lot of my um, time and efforts in management systems consulting across the sectors. I used to touch upon the standards and certifications focus of the young innovators. And of course, there was no need and nothing was mandated and things like that. But a startup today is an entrepreneur tomorrow. An entrepreneur should understand the importance of they may not understand the standards much, but they understand the certifications better. They understand the quality certificates that they have to showcase to their end users or to their customers better. Uh, Now this is the need of the hour, at least as far as India is concerned. Of course, in the global markets, this has been there for many years. In the Indian context, whatever I talk today and present today is from the Indian perspective, because it's my belief and a strong belief that being working with the startups for 10 years, 10 plus years, I feel that the global focus should be a phase 2 engagement and not the phase 1 initiative. Now, I will tell you why and as I move forward. This is something which I just wanted to address. During these interactions with these startups, as I mentioned, some of the frequently asked questions, which I could pick up from my conversations during these years. Some common questions I normally throw and ask, or I pick up in these discussions is, what should young innovators or startups refer to first when they are thinking about an idea, or when they are talking about uh, developing a solution to a problem statement, or coming out with a prototype, even right from an ideation stage. When they say that I have an idea, we have identified a problem statement, and maybe it is their own problem statement or a problem statement thrown by the users, predominantly by and large clinicians. So what is it that they have to refer first, at least when they are in ideation stage, or they are just a little above the ideation stage? What should come first when they are talking about building a product or building a solution? What should come first to their mind? What is required to take this product to the market? It's not just enough if a startup or an innovator thinks that they identified a problem statement at the marketplace, and they have come out with an idea, or they have done some market research and market study and validated their own idea, and then they have come out with a prototype building process. But what is it really needed to take that idea from an idea to a product stage? Once it reaches the product stage, what is required to take it to the market? What is it that the users, the end users or the users of this product look for and ask at the marketplace to accept this product? So these are some of the frequently asked questions I could pick up, and I just wanted to bring the flow of today's presentation based on these FAQs. As far as the medical devices sector in the country is concerned, globally, this is extremely regulated environment, or it is partially regulated in some economies and extremely regulated in some economies. But by and large, healthcare, whether it is a service or a product, it is the WTO mandate. It's a global mandate that anything which is being offered to the to the community's well-being, it comes under regulation, whether it is a food sector or whether it is something to do with healthcare or any other domain which directly deals with the community's well-being. These sector segments are always regulated. So if you say that in the Indian context, the healthcare services started with a regulation in 2010, which is called the Clinical Establishments Act. Unfortunately, it is not yet taken off in the full true spirit, at least in the last 3-4 years. We could pick up some activity, some momentum, at least in the last 5-6 years. And some of the state governments have come forward and started implementing the regulations for the services space, which is called the Clinical Establishments Act, which regulates the functioning of the healthcare establishments or the clinical establishments in the country. Then we do have healthcare products, be it pharmaceutical drugs or the medical devices. Of course, I'm sure all of you must be aware that pharmaceutical products is extremely regulated environment in the country, and it's been both healthcare products, like whether it is medical devices or drugs, are regulated under Drugs and Cosmetics Act. Even a medical device is notified as a drug in the country last year during the pandemic times. So both our products segments are regulated under Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So what is a regulation? We use the word regulation very loosely, but then what is it, regulation? What does it mean? Just there is some dictionary definition. I don't want to get deeper inside it, but generally when we say a regulation is a regulated environment is generally considered to be a stringent environment or a complex environment where the business sectors have to be in conformity with the applicable rules and laws and the acts defined by the governments. It's under statute. Many things are defined. So whenever a business sector or a domain is regulated, you find an act, and then you have rules, and businesses have to show compliance to all this. So generally, it is a domain where businesses are controlled by government rules. So as I said, healthcare is for the community's well-being, and so hence it comes under stringent regulations across the globe. So in the Indian context, this medical devices is kind of partially regulated all these years. It was not fully regulated, it was partially regulated. And we had medical devices rules framed in the country for the first time in 2017. As I was mentioning, the services got regulated first in 2010. Then the medical devices rules came into picture in 2017. So this is a partially regulated industry. When we say this is a domain which has got close to about some 5,000 to 6,000 product classifications. There are about close to about some 25 to 30 product groups, and then about some 6,000 products are listed. And if you see that, when I say partially regulated, very few devices are actually notified as regulated products, just about some 37 to 38, or maybe some more additions in the recent months. But then that's how it is. Out of, I'm talking about a total list of about some 5,000, 6,000 products, only this much is regulated. So the last year, as I said, the medical devices comes under Drugs and Cosmetics Act, and the rules are medical devices rules. And last year, even medical devices are classified as drugs. This is the global format again. See, many of these regulations, whether they are in the Indian context, they're always in alignment with the global regulations and the global framework. Now, none of the countries define or develop anything in total isolation. No, it never works that way. Most of this are kind of in alignment with the global frameworks only. So it is a global format. Now, generally, the regulators are common when it comes to both drugs and devices across the global markets. And there was a new definition of medical devices which was notified last year. All these things happened during the pandemic time. And so this definition was very clear. Earlier, there was a different definition given. Now there's a new definition which is given for a medical device. So any product which fits into that definition comes under the definition of a medical device, and it is categorized or classified as a medical device. So with effect from 1st of April 2020, the MDR 17, the rule said this definition is applicable to all medical devices. With effect from 1st of April 2020, any medical device, any device fits into that definition, it comes under a medical device. So this is what they have announced it. So they have come out with a definition. They have come out with the effective date to ensure that, you know, all the medical devices come under this. But as far as the regulation is concerned, as I said, it was partially regulated. You can't have 5,000, 6,000 products getting under regulated in one shot. From 38 to 5,000 or 6,000 is a long way to go. So what they have done is they have announced a transition period to bring all this. They said 1st of April onwards, all these devices come under the definition. So, but to come under mandatory regulation, under a mandatory regulation, they have given a cutoff time. These devices are classified under based on risk classification, 4 categories: category A, category B, category C, category D. A and B are considered to be low and low to moderate risk categories, and C and D are considered to be moderate and moderate to high risk categories. So what the regulator said is for the A and B, low to moderate risk categories, they have to come under mandatory regulation after August 11th, 2022. technically we have another 1 year from now. And the regulator said for the high risk devices, they're still giving 1 more year extra. So it's 2 years from now. All these devices which come under high risk categories have to come under compulsory licensing, mandatory licensing norms. So when a sector gets regulated, businesses need license to operate at the marketplace. Technically, without a license in a regulated business, when a business establishment does not have a license to operate, it means that it's an illegal business. So this is the transition time is what we call it as. So businesses do have a transition time. But then what happened during this pandemic time, markets opened up, businesses, some of these manufacturers started exporting, some of these businesses started exporting. The importing countries, the global market started asking for many things. The, the business identity for this business establishment at the country of origin. When a business owner is trying to export goods from here to global markets, some of them are matured businesses, been in the system domain, they have the formats, they have the structures, and a lot of MSMEs also had an opportunity and to export to the global markets. For example, a simple classic example, let me tell you, the PPE manufacturers. The PPE manufacturers have supplied to the global markets, are supplying to the global markets. There is that's a huge market which got opened up for the Indian manufacturers. But who are these manufacturers? These manufacturers who got into this massive production of PPEs are from textiles and garments domain. They are the textiles and garment manufacturers, and they are not the traditional manufacturers who were into this manufacturing this PPEs all these years. No. These manufacturers who were supplying to this PPEs all these years to healthcare and services establishments were actually MSMEs. But this textiles and garment manufacturers who got into this PPEs which are intended for medical use. I'm talking about PPEs which are meant for medical use. They have a large, huge facilities and large-sized units. So the MSME, the small-time manufacturers couldn't scale up, couldn't ramp up because their manufacturing capacities did not permit. But then the textile and garment manufacturers were able to do it. But do they have a business identity from our Indian regulator? Though technically there is no regulation in the country. So the importing countries ask, we would like to see the business identity that you are recognized by your own regulator in the country, that at least you have some connect with this medical device. This is the requirement of the importing countries because the user segment was asking for it. That's when our regulator came out with a registration announcement saying that businesses, yes, notified for you, only 38 are notified and none of the other devices are notified. Maybe some 40 is notified, but we have a long way to go. And technically, we can't say that all these businesses have to be mandatorily under license because there is a transition time in place. So what the regulator said, CDSCO announced is non-notified devices, manufacturers, businesses dealing with non-notified devices, they have to go for a voluntary registration process with CDSCO. Voluntary registration process, it is not a licensing process, it is a registration. Registration of businesses is basically a few levels below the licensing. It is just recognizing, identifying, submitting some basic business identity documents to your regulator, and the regulator will maybe allot you a business identification number, and this will help you when you go to the market. So this is what the textiles and garment manufacturers, the PPE manufacturers, got themselves registered and then submitted the same to the importing countries, international markets. So there is a process called registration which is in place. Now all the non-notified devices have to, it is a voluntary process, but the CDSCO said all manufacturers and businesses have to complete the voluntary registration process before October 1st, 2021. This is about the regulatory requirements given by our regulator. Now, I just wanted to drive this focus to the innovators and the startups. Again, I'm just going back to my journey with all the startups is they look at a regulation only when they are ready to go to the market. they understand that, only when they have to go to the market. Actually, go to market, as I said, now only the regulation is announced in the country. So there was no focus on the regulation. It was a partially regulated scenario. But so when they want to go to the market, that is when they really try to understand what is regulation, what is standard, what is certification, by which time your prototype is ready and you say that your product is ready and then it has gone through many other things. But the user industry keeps asking for various other things, and that is when the startups do a backward walking exercise, and they start with the backward journey, and then that's where they come back to what needs to be done at the first step. Globally, if you see, the focus is very clear. Even in India also, for other sectors, if you see, when a business domain comes under regulation, when a sector is regulated, any aspiring entrepreneur or any young entrepreneur or a startup innovator, you call them as in whichever fashion you want, they need to first understand the regulatory requirements first. Regulated businesses should understand the regulatory requirements thoroughly. It is the regulators who define the minimum requirements or the moderate requirements for a business to become operational. And only if the businesses meet those requirements, they are eligible to get a business license. So, and the requirements when the manufacturing, it's not about just the manufacturing site requirements. It's about many things, about products, about processes, about testing. The regulator defines many things. So, understanding, decoding, reading the regulatory's specification, which is in MDR 17, is a must. For all the innovators, and it is like our Bhagavad Gita, Bible, whatever we call it is, but we need to read it on a daily basis and understand, and the regulators keep on coming out with multiple series of announcements, especially when a sector is getting regulated now. The last 1 year, the maximum number of regulatory announcements we are seeing almost on a monthly basis, sometimes even on a weekly basis. So the innovators should understand the regulatory requirements first. They need to understand which regulatory requirement is applicable to their product. If they say that this is a product that we are visualizing, they need to see whether it is a low risk product. First, they have to see whether it meets the required specification of a medical device's definition itself first. Only if it meets the definition first, then it is classified as a medical device. Only when it is then the regulator has defined what is low risk, what is moderate risk, high risk, what is category A, category B, category C, category D. Then they have to see which product category, the risk category the product belongs to. Once they understand that, then they need to understand the rules applicable to that product, which comes under the respective group or the category. And for low risk, high risk, what are all the requirements the regulator has defined. They need to understand the medical devices rules with specific reference to that product, which is applicable to them. And that is why, as I said, it is a must for an innovator, whether the innovator is a clinician or an engineer or a biomedical engineer, it is very important that they should understand the regulations first. And it is the regulatory specs, actually, this specification, which brings a lot of clarity to them, to their go-to-market plan or a go-to-market strategy. GTM is go-to-market. So because when they are planning their go-to-market action plan, this is the foundation. Understanding the regulatory requirements is the foundation. And this is something which they are missing. They are not paying attention and they are not looking into it. And this is actually one of the reasons why they get stuck subsequently later. So what does the regulator say? What is our regulation? Our regulation is MDR 17, as I said. So what is it that the regulator is saying? There is a framework they have come out with, which has about some 12 chapters. It has about 8 schedules. It has about so many forms, at least about 40 forms, which the businesses have to submit to a regulator. And 40 medical devices forms for a manufacturer is nothing much. If you really look at healthcare services, where the clinical establishments are regulated, the list is very long. So this is about some 40 forms the regulator has defined. See, these things, all these things are defined by the regulator to assist medical device manufacturers or innovators in adopting the MDR 17. When you read the document on a daily basis, they will understand many things better and a lot of clarity will emerge. Now, what does this 12 chapters talk about? In a nutshell, there are 12 chapters. If you see that, what is the title, what is the application, what is the definition, is about chapter 1. Chapter 2 is about classification of medical devices, grouping of medical devices. There are about some 25, 24, 25 categories that grouping of devices that regulator has done. And for each product category, what are the essential principles? Then it talks about the authorities' delegation of powers in a regulatory environment. Very clearly defined role clarity will be there. Who will do what? So at a functional level, at a policy makers level, delegation of powers, notified bodies, who are the medical device. Then they have defined everything very clearly. Who should do the medical testing? Everything is defined in that document. And then it talks about manufacturer's application, applying for an inspection, grant of license, conditions of licensing, suspensions, cancellations, appeals, test license comes under your another chapter 4. Then for the import of medical devices, for manufacturers is chapter 4, for importers it is chapter 5. Same thing. Then chapter 6 is about labeling requirements to be followed by the product companies. Chapter 7 is about clinical investigations, the permissions that you have to seek from the regulator to do clinical investigations, medical management, compensations to be awarded during the trials, if any, inspections. Then your chapter 8 talks about permission to import manufacturing medical device which does not have a predicate medical device. These are all something to do with the importers regulations. Then duties and powers of medical device officers, medical device testing officer, notified body under chapter 9. Chapter 10 is about regulation of laboratories for carrying test or evaluation. Chapter 11 is about sale of medical devices. That is the when you go to the market, when you're selling the medical devices, whether you're a manufacturer or an importer or a distributor or a retailer, sale of medical devices, there are clearly defined protocols. Then chapter 12 is about application rejection, debarment of the applicants, exemptions, blah, blah. So these are the 12 chapters they have mentioned. And then there are schedules. For 12, and then the rules are also talking about after the chapters, there are about 8 schedules. Now, these are the important ones which an innovator must also read. And then the first schedule is about classification of medical device and IVDs. Schedule 2 is about fee related. Schedule 3 about registration and function of notified bodies. I will explain what all these things are subsequently. Fourth schedule is about the documents that are required for grant of manufacturing or import license. What are all the documents? I told you, there are a lot of forms you have to submit and a lot of documents the product companies have to submit. The fifth one is about quality management system. If you are going to get into manufacturing, the manufacturer should show compliance to the quality management system specification given by the regulator. Then the next one is the post approval. Once approval is done, any major minor changes, what protocols. 7th schedule is about requirements to conduct clinical investigation. You have a hub. The hub takes care of the clinical validation. So you really do not know the pain points of getting these clinical validations done. At least the innovators attached to this hub are lucky enough. I have seen enough innovators who do not have any attachment to medical hubs like this, where they are struggling to get the validation done, and even to get because basic clinical validation itself, they're struggling so much. It is not so easy. Without all the validation, you can't even take it to the market to convince your users. Then there is another schedule called about exemptions. So the innovators have to read the chapters and the schedules. It's a very simple document. It runs into a few pages, maybe less than 100 pages. When you read it every day, you will understand many things better. and our regulations are in alignment with global regulations. The way in which most of the things are defined, specified, they are in alignment with global regulations. So when you understand, master it so strongly in the country first, going to the international market, global market as a next step becomes easy, because you have a very strong foundation made in the country. So having addressed about the regulation, that's all the regulator said. Actually, these are the specifications. This is the regulatory requirements. Then after that regulations, then there is something called standards. So you may ask, then startups used to ask in the discussions, what are standards? Why should we use standards? I have an idea. I think that my idea is an innovative one. So I know how to build a product. So I know that it is good. My spec is good. The material that I use is good. Whatever I know is good. So that is a self-certification, right? So what are standards? So standards help you to establish a wide range of specifications for products, processes, or services. This is just a simple definition of standards. So the standards are international, the standards are national, the standards are developed at an industry level. The standards can even be a manufacturer's definition. So it can be anything. So, but the standards are here because standards bring a lot of standardization. The standardization is what that is required when you operate it at the local market, or at a national level, or at an international level. Many things have got to be standardized, and by and large, very small changes, country to country, each country will just customize the standard. Sometimes incorporate few changes, make customized changes to the country's requirement. Sometimes what is there in X country may not be relevant to Y country. That is why the national standards organizations, national standards bodies play a very active role. So they come out with harmonized standards, and they sometimes do country specific standards, but by and large they are always in alignment with the globally accepted, internationally accepted standards. So what are the standards? Standards are for products, standards are for processes, which otherwise we call it as management systems. And standards are not only for products, the standards are equally applicable for services also. So this now then when we are talking about the standards, MDR did our regulator, medical devices regulations or medical devices rules. MDR did give a specification about the standards. So what our regulator said is, if you are a business operating in India, okay, if you are a manufacturer, you are an innovator, or when you operate a business in the country, so MDR is saying medical devices have to first show conformance to standards laid down by Bureau of Indian Standards, which is our national standards organization. It is Bureau of Indian Standards, BIS. It is our national standards organization. So they said, the regulator said, first show me that your product is conformance to the standard laid down by BIS or any other standard notified by Ministry of Health. The second option is, if there is no relevant BIS standard available for that particular product, I'm talking about product standards here. When there is no standard available, the regulator said, then you businesses can show conformance to any standard laid down by international standards bodies like ISO, which is an international organization for standardization, or International Electrotechnical Commission, IEC standards, or any other pharmacopoeia standards like ASTM standards, EN standards. See, as I said, each country, they have their own standards. So they said any other pharmacopoeia standards is also fine, only provided when you do not have standards in the country. For example, I was mentioning that, we have about 5,000, 6,000 medical devices products listed in the country. But do we have the standards for all the 5,000, 6,000? No. By and large, I think till in the month of May, BIS did a program where they presented that they have developed standards so far for about 1,400 products. This was just about 300, 400 till 2-3 years ago. So they have developed standards, Indian standards for about 1,400 products. Out of that, some 400, 500 products are in harmonization with the global standards. So they have also done the harmonization there. So what will we do for the rest of the, if your product does not have an Indian standard, what will you do as an innovator? So you need to either hunt for a standard that is available in ISO or an IEC or an ASTM standard or a EN standard, whatever is approved by the regulator. Even if you don't have, sometimes your product may not have an ISO standard, IEC standards also. So what can you do at that time? A device manufacturer can have his own standards. Okay, then the device shall conform to the validated manufacturer standard. Manufacturers will develop his own standard, his own methodology, and it is a manufacturer's validated standards. So MDR is saying these are the product standards that businesses have to show compliance to. Now, MDR did not say that show the compliance to CE, show the compliance to US FDA. No, to do business in India, to sell in India, this is what our national regulator has said. And the medical device regulator also said, MDR also talking about QMS audit. There is something called quality management system. So what did our regulator say? There is a schedule 5 in the MDR which talks about a quality management system which has to be implemented by a manufacturer. So a manufacturer, what is a quality management system? This is basically for the processes. Businesses, organization, manufacturing process will have lots and lots of functional processes and functional systems. So there are quality management system frameworks that are defined at an international level. These are all international frameworks or national frameworks. It can be anything. Again, as I told you, even if it's a national standard, national framework, it will be in alignment with international. Sometimes our national frameworks are much have a better depth and more additional requirements than even what an international framework has defined it. So what is our regulator is saying? He is asking the Indian manufacturers or the manufacturers to implement quality management system. So he is saying class A and class B categories of medical devices shall be subject to audit of the manufacturing sites by notified bodies. Who are the notified bodies? It is our regulator CDSCO has given the mandate to our National Accreditation Board. NABCB is our National Accreditation Board. So our regulator has given the mandate to National Accreditation Board to appoint, to identify, accredit a few notified bodies, because it is our National Accreditation Board which has to accredit these agencies. Otherwise, we do not know the country of origin of any of these agencies who are operating in the market. We do not know the country of origin of the agencies which are issuing certificates left and right in the market. We do not know the authenticity of all the certificates. So the regulator gave the mandate to our NABCB, National Accreditation Board, to identify the notified bodies. There are about some 11 bodies, I think, notified by CDSCO now. See, these are the notified bodies for our Indian regulation. Right. So they said class A, class B devices will be subject to audit, and this will come under state licensing authorities. Even class C and class D devices also have to be audited by notified bodies, but the requirements of selecting the criteria of notified bodies and things like it's a separate requirement for that. So class A and class B, they said state licensing authorities will give this appoint notified bodies to check the QMS compliance of the manufacturer, and not only the QMS, they also said any other applicable standards. So the state licensing authority can have that, take that call to instruct notified body to audit a manufacturer's premises as per the Schedule 5 quality management system. What did Schedule 5 define? Schedule 5 has defined quality management systems to be followed by a manufacturer. Now that is also in alignment with the international standard only. We have international sector specific standard for medical devices, and our regulator has defined a quality management system in alignment with the international standard framework only. So MDR is saying only this: if you are having a product, your product standard should be in conformance to Bureau of Indian Standards. or any other standards if BIA standard is not available. When it comes to management system audit, only MDR Schedule 5. Only if the manufacturer can show the compliance to this, a license will be granted. Now the regulator is not asking for any US FDA, or he is not asking for any WHO GMP or a CGMP here. Okay, this is I want you all to understand, because these are the things which get flashed and thrown at the marketplace, sending a lot of confusing signals. And so our regulator, what our regulator wanted the businesses to do, first let us follow that. And our regulator also said very clearly about medical devices testing. So the regulator said testing or evaluation of a medical device on behalf of a manufacturer shall be made by CDSCO approved medical device testing labs. And this lab should be NABL accredited. So manufacturers have to test their medical devices. So where do they go? They may have a very limited testing capabilities in-house. Now, not all the manufacturers have a very good testing facilities in-house. Sometimes they have a very basic testing facility in-house. So, but they have to test their product for multiple parameters and multiple aspects. So where do they go? So they have to go to a testing laboratory. So the CDSCO said you can't go to everybody. So CDSCO, the last list which they have released on 7th of July, they have listed about 14 laboratories. Only these are the labs which are approved by CDSCO, which will be when a manufacturer submits his application for license, CDSCO will not recognize the test reports issued by any other lab, only these labs. And CDSCO has recognized the laboratories which are NABL accredited. NABL is our National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories. So regulators generally do not recognize unaccredited, the ones which are not certified, because when you say accredited, certified, you are in conformance to laid down norms, standards, international standards. So regulators, policy makers do not recognize any other labs. So this is what the medical testing, the regulator says, get your product tested only here. Now this is also given by the regulator. Now businesses do not have a choice, or the startups do not have a choice of getting the product tested elsewhere. Then let me talk about the certification. So we have addressed the regulations, we have addressed about the standards. Then there is something called certifications. So when you go to the market as an innovator, as a manufacturer, established manufacturer, or a young entrepreneur, when you go to the marketplace will ask what certifications you have, what certifications you have. Then you keep wondering, what is certifications? I'm not exposed to any of this. Nobody has told us about any of the certifications, what it is. No. Marketplace will say, unless you have some certificates to show that your product is of some quality and it is safe. So there are certifications for quality. There are certifications related to safety. So the market user industry is asking, show me what certificates you have. Then that's when the startups and innovators understood that there is a dimension called certifications. But what are the certifications? Look at our regulator, MDR. Did our MDR say anything about certifications? Certifications can be related to product. It can be related to your process system. But what did our MDR say? Our MDR said quality management system will be audited by notified bodies as prescribed by CDSCO. Now the regulator is not asking for an ISO 13485, he is not asking for your WHO GMP, he is not asking for your CE marking, he is not asking for any other market access requirements. So MDR doesn't talk about any of this. So what are the certifications then? So the certifications, as I said, they belong to two categories. Either products need certifications, and processes, business processes, organizational management systems need certifications. So a business will show both. They will also show a product certification, not just in medical devices. It is across all the sectors in many domains. So there are some domains where it is mandatory to have a BIS certification to sell in India, especially if you are selling to some governmental organizations and all. But in some sectors, it's voluntary. So it is not mandatory in medical devices space. So product certifications, products need certifications to have that, to give that assurance tag to your users. And then processes also need certifications. Now, what are the product certifications? The product certifications in the country, whatever I'm talking about, is our as per our market need. What is needed in our country? What should be offered in our country? So, what are the product certifications we have in the country? Our product certification in the country means it's the first thing that comes to all our minds is always BIS. ISI mark for any product is given by BIS. So the product certification body in our country is BIS. So BIS issues, they certify a product under an ISI mark. So this product certification is your business requirement. It is not your regulatory requirement. It is not mandated by your regulator, but it is your business requirement. It is your customer requirement. It is your marketplace requirement. The marketplace, the customer, businesses are always obsessed with certifications. So for them, it is the certification is a mark of assurance. So product certification is your go-to-market strategy. Not that your regulator has mandated it. No, he has not mandated it. Then we have a voluntary certification scheme from QCI, Quality Council of India, which is a apex body for quality in the country. So QCI has launched ICMED 13485 Plus, which is an Indian certification program. What is ICMED? ICMED is our Indian certification program for medical devices. Like how US has got its own certification programs, how European Union has got its own certification program. Go to Japan, it has got its own. Go to Australia, it has got its own. So India also, we have our Indian certification program, which is developed in collaboration with the Medical Device Manufacturers Association industry, IMED. So this is ICMED 13485 Plus is our product certification. I was mentioning some time ago that sometimes our national certification programs have got in-depth requirements, more specific requirements and wider requirements than your international programs. ICMED 13485 Plus is one such program where lot of additional features are added than to your international product certification programs like a CE marking or any other programs. Lot of regulatory requirements are added and a lot of patient safety requirements are added, which are otherwise not found in this other product certification programs. ICMED is extremely customized to the requirements of the international markets and to give that assurance tag to the domestic market. I will tell you why that assurance tag on quality is important. There is a lot of difference between assumed quality and assured quality, and the traceability of an assured quality is very, very important. I will touch upon it later. So this is the product certification scheme offered by QCI. So we have two product certification schemes in the country. One is offered by BIS, one is offered by QCI. So then what is this CE marking that industry is asking about? When you go to the market, the users keep on asking, show me your CE marking certificate, show me your USFDA certificate. And most often users don't know what these are. That is where the problem lies. The problem lies with the user industry because they are not educated. There is no awareness. And with all due respect, their understanding is, okay, these are all international benchmarks, international quality. But the users do not know that there are many other things which are happening at the marketplace. What they are seeing is only the certificates, but what is behind the certificates, they really do not know. So the users do not know because I'm a consultant with 20 years of experience working with the healthcare industry. But during my interactions, I have realized that their intentions are very good, that they feel that international quality is of highest quality, but then they did not understand that these are not certification, these are only go-to-market access programs. So it is a market access recognition program. They are not actually the certification. The certificates, what they are getting are not the real ones. So now that awareness is creeping into the system only now in the last 3-4 years, which was not there earlier. What is that CE marking? CE marking is actually, technically, it is called a marking. It is a market access recognition program. If you want to supply your product to European Union, the European Union has defined its own market access Our regulator also has given a market access program to importers into our country. I have shown you a lot of schedules and chapters which are related to importers. So when the importers want to have a market access to India, they need to meet all those regulations. Similarly, when the Indian businesses have to go to global markets, if you want to go to Europe, Europe says you have to go for our CE marking program. It is a market recognition program. So whether CE marking is required for all devices? No, not for all devices, for few devices. So then they are saying what is the marking? Their marking recognition program is your products have to be tested in our labs here only. So that is what those are the notified labs of the Europe. Europe also has got its own notified bodies. So the European regulator says you have to test your products in our labs only. These labs should be situated in European Union only. And if you want to have a market access, we will trust only our accept our labs reports, and we don't accept any other labs reports. So these notified bodies are only there in European Union. So that is the product certification you are seeing, but that is the product certification which is needed to go to Europe, not to sell in India. You want to go to Japan, they have their own certification. They will not accept many things. You go to Australia, they have got their own requirements. Every country has got its own requirements. Then there is something called USFDA certificates which are being flashed. They say our products are USFDA certified. What is that? There is nothing like USFDA certified where the certificates are given to you with a logo and all. There is nothing like that. USFDA doesn't issue any such certificates just like that to anybody. In the sense like there is the third parties, many third party agencies, certification bodies are showing certificates with USFDA logo. USFDA issues a certificate directly. It doesn't allow any third party agency to issue a certificate. So these are the market gimmicks that you are seeing. So what is USFDA? If you want to go to US, their regulator is USFDA. So FDA in US is saying if your device has to reach our US market, we have a process called 510K registration. So your product should come through our registration process. We also have our registration process in India. US has got its own registration process called 510K. And the US as a regulator, they will say what test reports we will accept. US FDA is generally accepting test reports issued by our accredited labs here also, because our accredited lab certificates are in conformance with international standards. So US FDA is accepting the test reports issued here also. So what are the product testing norms? As per US FDA specification only, the product companies have to follow. But to sell in India, you don't need 510K, you don't need US FDA certifications. No, none of these are required. These are the product certifications. Then I'm talking about process certifications, which are actually management system certifications. So businesses have to, only when your processes are right, when your processes are validated, when they go through some conformance protocols, the outcome of a good process is always a product or a service. So your product also will be of a good quality. That is why a product certification in medical devices will not be granted. A product certification in medical devices will not be granted if the business is not certified to process. So first your manufacturing processes should be certified. Only after that your products will be subject to certification. This is how the norm, this is the global norm, international norm also. So process certifications is, as I said, businesses go for, we call this as quality system certifications. So they go for all these things. We have national schemes, we have international schemes. Again, I am telling you, even if it is a national program, by and large, the standards are in alignment with international things only. We call this as national schemes because they are rolled out here. We have better controls. We can check the authenticity of most of the certificates here. It's possible. But requirements and specifications and the bodies which are auditing all this are the same agencies. It is the same international agencies who are auditing all these schemes and standards also. Even if it is a national scheme, it is audited by the same certification bodies only. So what are all the various type of certification programs that are available for the medical devices sector? You have something called ISO 13485. The latest version is 2016. So ISO standards earlier used to be very generic. They were not sector specific, but the last 10 years, 7-8 years, if you see, ISO itself is releasing sector specific standards. So medical devices standard is as a sector specific management system standard is ISO 13485. We also have our national certification scheme called ICMED 13485. As I said, it is our Indian certification program for medical devices, which has additional requirements to your ISO 13485. See, when it is ISO 13485 at a global level, many requirements related to country-specific regulations, country-specific quality requirements, all these are not captured in your ISO 13485. A manufacturer should have an integrated system, a single point system, which kind of helps him to build all the requirements. So when he is building a quality, he has to build the quality specification given by the regulator, some of the quality specifications of product standards, from the specification of your management system. So ICMED 13485, I would say that it is more robust and integrated. It's inclusive. I would use the word inclusive because it's more inclusive. It is actually addressing all the requirements which will actually make the life of the manufacturer easy. And at the end of the day, I can just go and check easily who has issued the certificate. Because it is issued in India, I can go and check the authenticity of the certificate, which currently today I'm struggling because as a business owner, I do not know what to check, where to check, how to check. And another standard that we also have is about ICMED 9001, which is again an ISO 9001 standard. As I told you, now when we say ISO 13485, whether all the like finished good manufacturers, yes, they can go for your ISO 13485. It is a business requirement. But there are a lot of components and raw material suppliers to this finished good manufacturers who are part of the supply chain of the finished good manufacturer. Now, supply chain quality is a global requirement now. The last few years, across the sectors, across the industries, it is not just the quality of the finished good alone that is being tested. It is the quality of your incoming goods also. Incoming products is also subject to a lot of quality checks. That is what it is, supply chain quality. So where do these component manufacturers and raw material manufacturers go? So they also need to have a quality management system, right? So that is why we have a ICMED 9001, which is our country specific requirement, which is ISO 9001 plus some additional requirements. So anybody who is part of the medical devices quality management system supply chain, it is ideal for them to go for an ICMED 9001, which will actually integrate them, kind of, establishes a good linkage with the ICMED 13485 manufacturers. So these are the process certifications that we have in the country. Now, as a business owner, when the businesses are actually going to the market, any manufacturing sector, forget that you are in a medical device, it is about a manufacturing industry. So whether it is an automotive or a medical device or a railways or a telecom or electronics manufacturing, businesses also go for various other management system standards like, as I told you, an ISO 9001. Some of the suppliers will say, I would prefer to go for an ISO 9001. Also because I am also supplying to non-medical devices sectors also. So when they go to non-medical devices sector, for them it is ISO 9001. And the manufacturers also go to ISO 14001, which is they're showing their compliance to environmental management systems, that this manufacturing unit is in compliance with the environmental regulations also. Then we have a 45001, which is about occupational health and safety. There's the workplace health and safety of a manufacturing unit. So businesses do go for 45,001. Then we have 50,001, which is an energy management system standards, which shows about energy conservation practices adopted by a manufacturing. Because these are all the certifications which are needed by businesses when they are going to market at multiple places. One more one which is applicable, which is more relevant for a medical device manufacturer, is also information security management system standards, which is ISO 27001, because there is a lot of cybersecurity issues are also associated with medical devices when they are embedded with softwares and when they use technologies, and where it is a IoT kind of a situation also. So this is an information security management system. And another process certification is your GMP. good manufacturing practices. Okay, so businesses, even European Union is asking, show me EU GMP. If the European Union wants to see your manufacturing effectiveness, so the EU as a regulator is asking for EU GMP. And then there is a WHO GMP which is widely accepted. These are all the current GMP programs that are available in the country. Your GMP program is also your process certification only. So these are the programs that are available. So I have covered regulations, I have covered touched upon standards, I have touched upon certifications. So what is needed to do business in India? I'm talking about startups and young entrepreneurs. All my discussion today's focus is on startups and young innovators, because they are not manufacturers, they are not large enterprises, they are not medium enterprises. I don't even bring them under small businesses also. They are not, they're technically, yes, a micro, they're not even a micro business, because they're just at a startup space stage only. So what is it that they have to do? So right from this, I told you, right from the ideation stage, they need to look at the go-to-market focus. So to sell in India, to do business in India, you have to show compliance to national regulations first. You can't do business in India without registering with our own regulator, without showing compliance to what our regulator has defined, and we can't show US FDA and EU regulations certificates to everybody. First of all, EU, whether it is EU or US FDA, they don't allow a third party to issue a certificate like this. US definitely does not allow. EU also has got its own norms. So market access norms are different. So why do you show all the certificates? Why do you need all this? You don't need all this in the market. So you have to obtain license for notified products. There are only about 38 or 40, I told you, the products which are notified at the moment by CDSCO. So if your innovation product falls under any of this notified products list already, then you have a cutoff time. If it is under this 38 or 40 already, you have to go for an immediate license. And if anything outside this, if it is a low risk, you have a cutoff time. High risk, you have a cutoff time. But if your product comes under this already notified products, it is for immediate license. When you don't come under a license, though you have a cutoff time for the next 1 year or next 2 years, you still have to go for a voluntary registration program, because your product is not notified. But the regulator has called for a voluntary registration. Out of your own interest, go and identify what is registration and develop. I'm creating a business identity for my business. I'm creating an identity for my business, for myself as an entrepreneur. So that's all it is. So that helps you actually in many ways. Then we have to seek product certifications as per the national certification programs. So the regulator did not specify this. So when we are going to the market, our users, we should educate our users also. There's a lot of user education that is required, which has to be taken up by NABH. NABH is the national accreditation body. So the request has to go to NABH to educate the user industry, the clinicians and the doctors and the surgeons and the hospitals and various other medical establishments, clinical establishments, that they need to ask for the product certifications from India, and they're actually what is happening at the marketplace is totally different, because it is due to their lack of awareness and ignorance. So product certifications as per national certification programs is what we should ask, because tracking a certificate issued is very easy. Seek process certifications. So a business should have, as I told you, user will ask what certifications you have. So seek process certification like ICMED 13485. Even you can seek ISO 13485. So this should be your first step to build your go-to-market focus, to prove your competencies and product success in the domestic market. If you're an innovator, if you're a startup, your next 3 to 5 years, your goal is to prove, it's a proof of the pudding, that I need to prove this thing in my domestic market first. Without acquiring customers here, without showcasing this thing here, without doing a post-market surveillance here, without understanding all these things, if I go to an international market also, they will definitely expect you for all these things. There are a lot of regulatory exchange information is happening because when the markets have opened up now across the globe, Europe has opened up its market for non-European countries. They have opened up the market, but they have tightened the market access now. Very high stringent regulations now. So every country is doubly cautious about giving market access now. So a regulator to regulator exchange, information exchange also will happen. That is why having a registration with your regulator is very, very important. Establishing a business identity, respecting first the laws of the land is very, very important for the businesses. But we show a lot of this thing for respecting the laws of the land for the global markets. First, let us have a strong conviction and this thing respect for our own national regulations, national certifications, and national compliances, which are very important. So this should be your first focus towards your building your go-to-market focus. What is not needed, not mandatory to go to market in India? What is not needed? You need not showcase USFDA. You need not showcase CE marking. You need not showcase WHO GMP. See, these are all required to have a global market access, as these are the market access criteria to reach those specific markets. Most of the certificates showcase to the users, the doctors, hospitals, procurement teams in the hospital. They don't know, honestly, procurement teams don't know anything about what to check because they don't have that focus. There is no education happening there. And the procurement teams, the purchase offices, they don't even know. So they fall flat for all the certificates which are shown to them. So the most of the certificates shown to the users are ISO 13485, CE marking, USFDA, WHO GMP. It does not, because most of this are unauthentic. When we say why unauthentic is because USFDA does not allow any third party to issue a certificate. Like that, every certificate has got a specification. Third parties are showing certificates which are not allowed in the first place. Very few recognize. Even as CE marking, the notified bodies are only in Europe. And test reports are shown from India, which is not correct. The phase 2 should be your go-to-market focus for global markets. So when should you target? Plan is, I would say that first, strengthen your position in the global market in the next 2 to 3 years. Have a very strong grip on the domestic market, build a lot of capabilities here, 3 years at least. 3 to 5 years is an ideal time frame, but definitely a minimum of 2 to 3 years before you even think about going global. When you master all these things, but your phase 2 go-to-market focus for the international market should happen parallelly, because I'll tell you, lots and lots of opportunities will come in the international market for medical devices. I was reading a document by Australian government's roadmap for medical devices. It's a very beautiful document I was reading recently, where an Australian government is also thinking of, it's a small community and small this thing. They do not want to set up huge manufacturing capabilities because they are saying it's very expensive to create all this to make global compliances, but they have to export. But to export and things like, because the local market size is very small for them, so they need to go global. So they are asking for collaboration with international communities, countries with strong manufacturing capabilities, countries with strong product innovation capabilities, to come and join hands in Australia to strengthen their domestic manufacturing focus. So innovators, good products will have a global market access also. So you need to understand, but before you go there, without acquiring even, let us say, 500 customers in India, let us say about 300 customers in India, don't even think about going global immediately, but understand the global specification. Want to go to European Union? What is the regulation? What product certification? What process certification? You want to go to US? Well, same story you repeat. You want to go to Japan? Same story you repeat. So this should be your second phase exercise, and you can't even think about going global now. Nothing wrong in having an aspiration. There is a lot of gap between an aspiration and a reality. And medical devices are extremely stringent market. As I said, it is for communities' health and well-being. It is extremely expensive to invest into all these things. And startups, beyond the product stage, they need to think about many other things also, which I will touch upon during the discussion time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Rama, for your holistic and giving us the holistic understanding. And I request Professor Matthew to share a vote of thanks to her.
We are grateful to Mrs. Rama Venugopal for this, very erudite and thorough analysis of this whole issue. And Madam, we are grateful to you for sharing your expertise as well as your experience. And we look forward to an ongoing collaboration so that we may enrich ourselves with your vast experience. Thank you, Madam.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Rama, again. And we have our other eminent speaker for the day. We have Dr. Suresh Nair with us. He is an alumnus of Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Bombay, and he has done his initial career work at TIFR and SA Samir R&D Labs of Ministry of Information Technology, Government of India. And then he was associated with NAST as Global Chief Technological Officer, heading the technology strategies. And under his leadership, they have designed and developed many novel products in healthcare, communication domain, and many other. Out of those, many other are finding excellent marketing acceptance globally. So Dr. Suresh Nair is presently a Chief Technology Advisor to Foundation for Innovation and Social Entrepreneurship. This is an initiative of Tata Trust, and also he is a founder of two companies, Design Alpha and Biophoton Technologies. He has around 120 publication and 18 patents, co-authored 3 books and more than 200 technical reports to his credits. And we are privileged to have him here, and we welcome Professor Suresh Nair. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet, sir. Please start sharing.
Share. I thought I shared it. Let me just see.
Yes, sir. It started sharing. Yes.
Visible, right? Okay. So thank you very much. I'll be very brief because this is almost 12:30. So people must be, hungry on those days. So today, what are you able to hear me? Yeah. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So today, myself started my career with an R&D organization, then switched over to industry. So I understand, what are the issues at various, whether it is academia or R&D as well as industry. So my focus will be on those things. So that let us start. The first thing is innovation. Every day we talk about innovation. Any presentation, we always talk about innovation. It's basically a process of translating an idea or invention into a product or service. That is how it is called innovation. But I always used to give one more qualification for that, for which customers will pay. Then only I call it as an innovation. That is, you need to understand that one. So I may be very good in some area, for example, nanoscience or whatever it is. So I will be very much, what is it called, in comfort zone to develop a product in that area, thinking like, when I come up with a product, there is somebody, as a customer to buy. That is our assumption. So that is not correct. Actually, when you are starting with a startup or developing a product where you are going to invest a lot of money, so I call it as an innovation only when there is a customer willing to pay. Okay, it can be a pay or use it. So this has to be kept in mind whenever you think of innovation. So basically, for all the R&D organizations and all, we have a lot of ideas and we don't look back and forth. We just start developing some product. Like this will come up and there will be a lot of requirement, a lot of customers to buy. That thinking has to change first. So on a lighter note, I will go with, when I believe you don't fall down, but even if we fall down, we break the hand. So what we do, we go to doctor and they will put a sling like this. And, you have to tell every person you meet what has happened to your hand, like especially in India, So whosoever you meet, you have to tell what happened. So I fell down, I did this, that. So I was thinking another innovation, a simple innovation. At the swing itself, you print what has happened, like a dog bite or you fell down from stairs and things like that. It's on a lighter note, but it gives an idea, like it can save a lot of energy. That's what I wanted to come here. Let us get on to the topic. So you may be in an R&D organization, you may be starting your own product development. I have a self-checklist on your ideas. This is checklist. That means you have to do a checklist on these things. So why I'm saying this is like, before you jump on to developing a product and you have an idea, so I suggest you go through all these things. One is the originality. See, originality doesn't mean that you have to think something non-existing. Okay, originality can be like something added to the existing product. That also can be called as an incremental originality. That also is okay. For example, I have a mobile phone here. If I can use this to smell and detect cancer, for example, so you have to attach something here. That is also an original thing. It's not like you have to develop the mobile phone and things like that. So that is why I'm talking about originality. Is like, I have been sitting in many of the forums. Even just now I came out from IIT Delhi, selection of startups. Many times it happens like, everybody follows, something which is already there. Since we are sitting in all these things, we are hearing this one. So we are not seeing much originality in this thing. But I suggest it's always better to have some originality in your idea. Prior status. Before starting developing something, you have to know what has been done till now in this area. This is a must. You have to know what has been done till now on this area. Then only you have to stand on that floor and think further. That is what I always suggest. It's not like, without looking at what has been done in this area, you start developing and see that there is somebody else coming up with the same product with maybe more features, less cost and all those things. So never reinvent the wheel. So this says you have to have a very clear idea. Who are the competitors? What we have to do, and that has to be very clear. Patentability is, of course, that is required. If you show that you have 2-3 patents, then it adds value to your startups. Then market analysis, competitive products, other unique selling proposition. You have to have a very clear idea. That's why I'm saying. See, normally in a presentation, we try to hide some of the USPs other competitors are having. You put, you can see that your product is having all yes, all green. You are hiding some of the other properties available with the other competitive product. That is okay for presentation when you go for funding request and all. But you are going to put your life into this one. So you have to have a very clear idea what I have to do, what others have done. Development cost and time. It has to be a realistic development cost and time. If you are thinking of a product which will come up maybe after 5 years and the development cost involved is a few hundred millions, that is not going to work. Even though there are a few startups started working on space and other areas, but you have to be very careful on that. Product cost. This is one thing very, very important. See, when the normal process of design is like you do the design, then you take out all the bill of material, what all there, take the cost, add, that is the bill of material cost. But my idea suggestion to all of you is like before starting developing a product, you need to have an idea of what should be the product cost. Okay, you can compare many competitors. You may have some something added features. You can add that one, but you need to have an idea. Why I'm saying is like it should not happen like when you complete the design and you come up with a product which cannot be sold. So if you have in your mind an idea what should be the product cost, I can sell this mobile phone for 5,000 rupees or whatever it is. So when you do the design, every design you do, the product cost also should be one specification. So when I'm selecting an IC, the cost is like this. Is there any other alternative to this one? So that I can reach the product cost. Otherwise, you come up with a product which cannot be sold. Okay. Repeatability. This is what, being an R&D engineer, I can make one system. But, you know that one. That can be demonstrated only by you. Even if you ask someone, your friend, to demonstrate, it may not work. That's how R&D starts initially. But when you are coming up with a commercial product, you have to design in such a way that it is repeatable. The performance is always repeatable. It is not like by chance your things work. So that has to be very, very nicely done. This is actually related to design. Manufacturability, that is another interesting thing. I am an R&D engineer, so I will come up with a product. I can make a few protos, 5, 10, and things like that. But manufacturing is not going to be done by you. That will be done by another person. So you are a PhD, MTech, whatever you have knowledge. You know how the capacitor works, how the inductor works. But when you are transferring to the manufacturing will be done by an ITI guy. Okay, so and also maybe some machines. Okay, so whatever you give the instruction, they will just follow the instruction. They are not allowed to think on the technology. Okay, so when you are coming up with a product design, you have to make sure that it is manufacturable and it is repeatable. And one simple example I will take. Those who are electronics engineer, when we learn the resistance, there are a lot many bands, and the last band is tolerance ring. We call it. It can be gold or silver depending on what tolerance you have. So when you are having that many components and you apply this tolerance, it can happen like the circuit may not work. Okay, so this analysis has to be done during the design. Then you may ask me, okay, I will always go for the best tolerance so that it will work. When you go for best tolerance, your cost will shoot up like anything. So you need to have, that's what the design is very much related to cost, which normally we don't understand. And sustainability, I will just leave it there. Why I'm insisting on all these things, I'm trying to give a different look at. You may be very good in R&D, but I'm trying to give another face to, or another way to look at the product development. Startup system, in India now 57,000 startups are there. And many have failed mainly in hardware, because software, they come up with something and then they earn something. Hardware, when we looked at the failed startups, the main reason for failure is no market need for whatever product they have built. So this has to be kept in mind. I can spend one day on all these things, but that's what you have to keep in. No market need, whatever you have built. Okay, so that has to be taken care of. See, I have been, as it was mentioned in the academic area, so I have been worshipping, Saraswati and all. So when you are translating your R&D into commercial product, or the product which will be used, I think you have to start worshipping on the Lakshmi side. So that is what, very important. Why I'm showing here is like that the eye in which you look at the product changes. You have to sell this product. Okay, so that is very important. You have to take care of. You have to worship both of them. Okay, but there now you can see. Yeah. Okay. Let me get on to the concept to product thing. When many of the startups or the research people, they don't have really an idea of what is the life cycle of developing a product. I will take you through each one of them. First is a concept. Concept is the idea what you have. Yes, I am having this idea, so my concept is there. The first thing what you have to do is proof of concept. So you are very convinced about your concept, but this has to be proven to others. That is what proof of concept. That you can do in a lab. You can use all the available equipments like oscilloscope, spectrum analyzer, then power supply, MATLAB, laptop, all those things you can use it. Okay, here I'm not going to look at how the product will look like, but the functionality of the product. So whatever idea you have, you are proving to others. Okay, that is what proof of concept. This next stage, once proof of concept is demonstrated, then you move on to the actual design. The actual design will consist of a lot of factors. I will specify some of them. One is industrial design, the way how the product will look. The iPhone, we go for iPhone because it looks so nice, very thin when it came up. Now also they are following it up. So the industrial design consists of two things. One is ergonomics and aesthetic. Aesthetic is how it looks. The white color looks good. So this is very, very important. When you go to buy a stabilizer for an AC, You will see so many stabilizers, but normally, your eyes will be stuck on a good-looking stabilizer so that you can keep it at, near to the AC. Okay, that is very important. Ergonomics is like, where the switches are placed. I should not, it's not happen like I come up with a product, I put an on-off button somewhere else and I have to look for where it is, or an emergency button where to keep it. So all these frequently used buttons are to be kept at a place where it is accessible for the user. So that is what the ergonomic side of that. Then it includes electronic design. It includes mechanical design. Then photonics, optical, if you have RF design, for example, like communication, all those things you do design. So you do the complete design. Then once the design is done, the first product you are building, that I call it as a proto build. I call it as alpha proto build. So you build the proto, you can use 3D printing for enclosure, a PCB, you can get it done, whatever available thing you do it. But when you are doing the design, it has to be designed in such a way that I am designing the final product. Okay, that is what we have to think. We have to spend a little bit more time to realize how the product should look like. Then you design accordingly. So the alpha proto also will look like the final product. Okay, of course it is done using the rapid prototyping and things like that. So you make the alpha proto, you do your test, you give to some of your potential customers and get feedback. You do iteration there and come up with a beta proto. Beta proto is normally called as MVP also, minimum viable product also. The beta proto is almost done. Everything is done. I'm not going to, I can give this to anyone for testing, any of the potential customers. So beta is done. Then comes the next stage, that is called pilot build. See, once beta is done, you are convinced of your product. Now I am going towards manufacturing, model manufacturing. So I am going to build the pilot prototypes, we can call it. So that has to be built in a factory or a facility where the final manufacturing is going to happen. Okay, why I am saying is like Rama Madam has already talked about ISO 13485 and all. So all these things, if you are building a healthcare product, it has to be built in an ISO 13485 certified manufacturing facility. So you, after the beta proto, you are transitioning into a volume manufacturing. So the pilot is built, you can build 50 numbers, 100 numbers, depending on the type of the product. Then out of that, you take the product because it's already done, everything is done. Out of that, you take the product for compliance testing if it is required, like CE or whatever it is required. Madam has already explained what are all required, but I will tell why compliance testing is required. See, I think I may be coming to the next one also. Yeah, so this is another one, compliance testing, because when you go for any of the trials and all, no, the doctors will ask for CE. Otherwise, you have to explain to them what are the compliance you have done. Then reliability testing, you have to give a warranty. You are developing a product today. How can you give warranty for 5 years? You have not used it for 5 years. So there are some methods to accelerate that one. Put the product into very accelerated life test. Take data, you can derive what can be the warranty, how long this may work. So all those things you have to do, reliability, then you launch the commercial product. So this is a life cycle. This, if you follow, is a standard one. You can skip some of them, but I always suggest this is a very standard, industry standard, you can follow it. Then the first, when you are coming up with a product design, the first thing what I suggest is you have to come up with a requirement specification document. I am at the initial stage. I have not done the design. I have the proof of concept. Now I am going to do the design. So before that, you have to come up with a specification document, which is basically qualitative description to quantitative specification. That is what engineers understand. The scientists and all, they, for example, any of the biotechnology, they will tell like 2 drops of liquid, whatever custom liquid they have to put and shine some light and take the photoluminescence and things like that. That's all qualitative. When it is converted to quantitative, you have to tell what intensity the light will be shown, how much quantity the liquid will be there, what power the fluorescence will be coming out, what wavelength, all those things you have to really do it very clearly on that. Then you have to do an overall system specification, input, output, electrical, mechanical, HMI, human-machine interface, compliance, reliability. IP standard is like ingress protection. For example, I am going to come up with a product. I will show some examples where even if some water spills on that, the product should work. So then you have to take care of all this. So I am putting this specifically here in this forum because we are very, very weak in documentation. Okay, because we hate normally. So that is not going to work. As soon as before you start designing, you have to have a very clear document ready. Then only, when you develop the product, you can compare it, you can validate, all those things you have to do. And there is one more factor, DFM, that is designed for manufacturability. That is another one, whatever you design may not be manufacturable. So at that time, when you are giving to some people who are expert in DFM, they will look at process, whether manufacturable, design, whether manufacturable, material, environment, compliance testing, all those things they will take care of that. I think I can talk on all these things, for a few hours. Since we have very less time, I will move on. When I'm talking about concept, if a bioscientist, if you are a bioscientist, you will give the requirement like this, a few A4 size, descriptions, what you want. Okay, that is what you want. But this has to be first converted to an architecture when you are going for product design. This is same thing I have converted to an architecture. Okay, so many ways you can realize whatever it is written on in letters. Okay, so this is architecture. That is not enough. You have to realize how the product will look like. That is what. So one example I am showing. Whatever a bioscientist written, converted into an architecture, then converted to a product design. This is how it is. So this product will satisfy all what they have already talked about. A few more case studies. These are all my personal experience, so that it will give a realistic view to you instead of taking from a textbook. Here, one of the healthcare, since I think we are focusing on healthcare, one of the startup, they are very good in hospital equipment technologies. Okay, so they have been doing various methods and all. So finally, they wanted to come up with a product. I don't want to explain all these things because it is the IP is owned by the startup. They have come up with a bed which will avoid bed sore. Okay, let me make it put it very simple. That's what they have been doing. They are all R&D organization. Their product was like this, what I am showing. A few air pillows they have put it, and they were using some motor to pump up, down, and down. So this I call it as a research only use product. Okay, it cannot be commercialized. So what we have to do is convert this to commercializable product. So the same thing, what we have done is like this. This is also a bed where we have designed some geometries, and whatever they require, that was realized in this one. Okay, this type of thinking will come only through industrial experience. That's what I'm telling you. If you are in R&D, you always, our mindset is something else, functional. But when industry is something commercial, how can you manufacture? So this easily you can manufacture. Okay, that's how we convert. Another example, one technology was taken from government laboratory. They have developed some technology. So this commercial organization and industry, they wanted to come up with a product. So I will show an example. This is how it was a research only use model in a laboratory. They have proven everything in the lab. So if you want to convert that into a product, what we have done is like this. It's a product where you can carry biosamples, vaccine, and things like that. Will keep the temperature within some particular temperature range as per WHO requirement. So this is what from here to here. So that's what you have to think. You can take help of many of the people so that it will be true. Now, I showed a complete life cycle of a product development. Let me show a case study. This is a little high involved product. I will not get into more details lack of time. The concept was done. So this is an ultrasound machine. The customer, somebody wanted to come up with a new ultrasound machine. Leave the technology part. So concept is already done. Then we went for proof of concept. As I said, the proof of concept, you can use all available equipment. We are showing that it works. The scanning works. Then we went for design. As I said, industrial design, electronic design, mechanical design, all those things. For there, I will not show a complete ultrasound, even though we have done. I will show only the console, just to explain. There, all these things are there. You can see the design. It has got so many things, mechanical design and all, and so many things we have added. So you can see that the rubber sheet here, which we have put to take care of, like these type of ultrasound equipment will be used in a clinic where the liquid can fall. They can clean it using whatever IP and things like that. So when you do the design, you have to make sure that even if something falls on the ultrasound console, the liquid or water or coffee or tea will not get into the electronic circuit. So we put a rubber layer so that even if something falls, it is drained to some other place. It will not affect the electronic code. I'm just telling one example. It's very much involved product. Another mechanical design is like, the doctor will be always using that knob. Okay, so that is the portion where a lot of pressure will be given, strain will be given. So I have to strengthen that area. So I have to do an analysis. I cannot strengthen the area by putting more thickness. Then it will be very high cost, manufacturing issues. So instead of that, I can think of a rib design to increase the strength at the backside. That's what we have to do. Okay, I'm just showing a few examples. So we did all those things and come up with a proto, which is a 3D printed console. Then I went for pilot. You can see this, the pilot is the final one. This is made in the final manufacturing unit, which is ISO 13485. You can see the innovation. I am not getting to the technology, but even on the console, you can see till now, when you see the ultrasound console is normally gray color with some normal shape. Here it is all changed. The black color and the shape and all changed. You can see how it looks like, a very sleek one. The same, the same functionality, you can achieve that. Then the compliance testing. This, you have to go through all these things like interest protection, cleaning, because this will be cleaned very often. So you have to make sure that all those factors are taken care. Okay, chemical agent cleaning, compatibility test, reliability test. For example, one example I am showing here. A switch is used in the ultrasound. We will be using it very often. So you have to select and design a switch such that it will withstand 10 million operations. You have to find out, for example, if you want to give a warranty of 5 years, daily a doctor will be pressing maybe 20 times. So you multiply by the number of days and, then you can come up with what should be the life of every part on that. So main parts. Then you have to select or design in such a way, and you have to also physically press that many times and prove. Then only this will be accepted. That's how it happened. When you are transferring the design to a manufacturing, you can see all these documents to be given. That's what I'm telling. Yeah, you don't think like I have designed, I will just dump it to a manufacturing unit. It's not going to happen. Lot of industry standard documentation has to be done. Okay, so that is how the commercial product came out. So that was one example. FMEA, this also, since you are in healthcare, I have to explain this. Failure mode and effect analysis has to be done here. Okay, this is a design review tool which can be used. I will put it in a very simple way. I am designing an ultrasound, for example, machine, and I have done a mistake. The designer has done a mistake. And once in a while, when I scan, the machine gives an output saying like there is some tumor there. For example, you just take it. It can happen. Okay, it can be a software bug. It can be a hardware bug. It is not easy to understand that one. So the doctor and patients believe in this product. So as a designer, I have to imagine what all failure modes can happen. and mitigate that in the design. Okay, that is what is required. Okay, so that is what I am suggesting. You have to make, because this machine will, you have to think like whatever you are designing will be used by you and your dear ones. So that is what, if you keep that in mind, all the designs will get straightened out. I'm coming to the end of this one. There is always, when we sit in the many of the review committees, we will tell like, I'm going to come up with a product in India which will be less cost. That is the normal thing what we hear. I don't buy that statement. How can it be a less cost? Then, we are not making any electronic components here, except some capacitor, resistors and all. All ICs are bought. Okay, mechanical you can do. Okay, I can save some money on that. So you have to understand what is meant by a product cost. It is not the bill of material cost. Okay, it will added by inward freight cost. You have to get components from abroad, Singapore, China, wherever it is. Customs duty you may have to pay. Conversion cost you have to pay, which includes solder, other consumables. Assembly and testing cost, if you are giving to a manufacturing unit, they will charge. Packing has to be there, brochure has to be there. You have already spent a lot of money on R&D development, tool costs, because if you want to make a plastic part, you have to put a lot of investment in tool costs. When you are that, all those things will come in the design. Okay, when the product cost, the design is always related to product cost. So all those things you have to add. Then the selling cost will be this product cost plus profit, whatever you want to make, plus distributor margin you have to give to the distributor. You are not going to go to every hospital and sell it. So all these factors combined is called selling cost. Okay, so you have to be very careful. So I believe you can make low cost product only through disruptive innovation. That's what my statement is. Not just copying or making it in India. Very, very rare chance there. So this is one example I'm showing. Bill of material cost is only 65% here. It's a real example. The selling price is 100%. So all other factors are coming from other things. So my summary, prototype development is only 30% of the whole job. Whatever you call it, it should look good. If you have to sell it, it has to go through all these development life cycle. So then only you call it as a commercial product. Then design for manufacturability, regulatory compliances. Regulatory compliances, ma'am has talked about the requirement of CE and all. See, why I'm saying is when you are making a product, who is going to certify? There should be someone else who has to look at and say that, for example, a mobile phone, this can radiate huge power so that I can get very good signal. But there is something called, there are some limits, regulatory compliance. So this can radiate only up to that limit, that power. So somebody has to tell that yes, your product is okay. So that is how this has to be taken care. I think I have taken enough time. Thank you very much, and hope it was useful.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nair. I think we all will be grateful to you for imparting such a holistic knowledge to design to concept and concept to design process. And I would like to request Professor Puri to now please share a vote of thanks to Dr. Nair. I request Professor Puri to please share a vote of thanks to Dr. Nair, please.
I think probably some network issue.
Professor Puri, am I audible? I think he could not listen to me right now, and
No
yes,
problem.
Professor Dr. Nair, we really thank you for imparting your time to us for this wonderful talk, and we are hopeful Biomedical Instrumentation and Devices Hub will be collaborating, will be happy to collaborate with you. And I think Professor Puri can
Hello.
make a
Hello.
yes, what
Saurabh,
to Dr. Nair. Yes, please, sir.
अभी सुन रहा है?
Yes, sir. You are audible now.
Yeah, I think that Nair, it was an excellent talk, and I'm sure a lot of people have questions. Saurabh, has anybody asked for any question in the chat box?
Yes, sir. There are few questions, and we supposed to have an open house discussion after Dr. Rubina's little address. We have Dr. Rubina, the assistant drug controller, with us. Deputy drug controller with us, and we would be happy to get her knowledge and get her insights about the regulatory aspect of the medical devices. So, Dr. Rubina, if you can hear me, we welcome you at the Biomedical Instrumentation and Devices Hub. If you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank
Welcome,
you.
Dr.
Thank
Rubina.
you. Yes. I'll just. So, am I audible? Right. So, thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much, and thanks for this opportunity to be here. So, though I'm for a very short time because of the regulations, because of the Parliament session being ongoing, and we have a lot of Parliament questions now. So, just to say that congratulations to this team for organizing this excellent workshop, and this first, I think this is the first in the kind. I'm not sure. I don't have a background one. So regarding the regulatory perspective from CDSU, I would say that CDSU and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare have taken various steps for streamlining the procedures, regulatory procedures, establishing guidelines, and the most important being the medical device rules 2017, which has been implemented in the online mode. Am I audible? Right? Yes. Okay. So the which has been implemented since January 2018, and we have an online Sugam portal for this, and this has not only promoted it has brought a very clarity in the manufacturing, clinical investigation, in the post-marketing surveillance, in all the aspects of the medical devices regulations in the countries, but it is also has been made at par with the global regulations, as well as promoting the research and development of the new devices. In fact, CDSU nowadays, we have partners with, we are along with the Department of Biotechnology, we regularly attend the first hub, if you are aware of it, for the startups and the innovators, and various other sessions with the BIREC team to facilitate, to make this regulatory facilitation. Regarding some salient points in this medical device rules, so you know that there has been risk classifications. So this is all aware. So we have published the supportive classifications also for all the category of the medical devices after wide consultation. Then we have the subsequent GSR notification, which we have published in the February 2020. One of them is the defining the medical devices under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act and rules. We call it as the GSR 648E of February 2020, as well as we have the statutory order of 648E, and also we have the 102E, that's a GSR, uh, where we have notified the devices, and also we have taken steps for in a phase-wise manner to regulate all classes of devices, which falls under the definition. So 648E is the definition, and the other is that the notification of GSR notification 102E. So the how it has been, there is a, if you have undergone, you have gone through that particular notification, I think every startups and innovators and whosoever is interested in these areas should go through that particular notifications, where it is very clearly mentioned about the list of notified devices and how which are in the process, and how this voluntary, there is a voluntary registration process, which steps have been taken so that we can regulate all the devices in the country which are being used, and which fits into the definition of the medical devices. And there is an online system in CDSU. Other than the medical device, when you are already notified and when you have to apply through the usual process, that's you can do a voluntary registration of your device if it is not very clearly classified into that 25 notified devices and the subsequent classifications, where you can register yourself. You should be having a QMS certification, quality management system certification of ISO 13485, and also and you can get a registration number. If you can mute, then I am getting a lot of, yeah, so others if they mute. So so there will be a registration number from CDSU, which you can put in your product, and you can market the product till such time that we are not having the total registration of the medical devices. So this is a process of voluntary registration, and then you can have that whenever you're having under the notifications, and you have to apply for getting your manufacturing licenses and selling licenses and the other clarifications on the clinical investigations. So we have also published the list of notified bodies which are available in the CDSU, and as you know, class A and class B devices are being controlled by the state licensing authorities, and class C and the D, the high class devices, the high risk devices, they are controlled by they are under the regulations of the CDSU, central regulations. But in overall, for import of all medical devices, it's under the central control. Central authority is the authority for this import of devices. And we have also the list of laboratories published in this in the CDSU website, which we have notified as the medical device laboratories, and similarly we have the notified list of IVDs. And one more thing I would like to just say, that about the standard settings of the medical devices, that they should comply with the standards of BIS, or the standards, any standards which is being published by the government of India. And in case such standards are not available for a medical devices, in that case it can be any international standards like IEC and all. And even if there is no such international standards published for a medical devices, in that case, or any other pharmacopoeial standards which is available in other countries, or any other regulatory guidances, but if it is still not available, then we do accept the validated manufacturer standards. So we have also the various guidances published in this COVID pandemic on the IBD kits, on the COVID kits testing. So I think we have done with the ICMR. So all these are available, very openly, publicly available in our website. And as I said, that for any questions, we have that first step session with the DBT, which we meet all the startups, innovators, and many. And we also have a public relation office in CDSU, where anyone can approach to this public relation office with his new device or a new IVD kits, and can write to CDSU. There is if you go to the CDSU website, so you can see the email IDs, and you can write, and you can you can ask for a meeting. And if it is particularly related to the COVID kits, then it is immediately being taken into consideration and priority. So we have established a number of public notices on this prioritization of all the activities related to the COVID's kits, which is whether it is devices, diagnostics, or vaccines, or the drugs. So I think I should the session, next session should be continued. So thank you very much for this excellent opportunity, and it is always nice to be connected to the people. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bose, and we thank you very much for coming on such a short notice. And I request Professor Puri to please share a token of thanks to Dr. Rubina Bose. She is the Drug Controller, CDSU, New Delhi.
Thank you very much for all the efforts to join and give us some overview of what's how can the device certification and can be done. And I'm sure BIS, there are a number of divisions of BIS, and each one of us can approach the division for a particular device of interest, because each division takes care of number of devices related to that particular division. So we can either look into the uniqueness of the new device which we make, and try to help them making standards, because BIS at this point of time, I don't think they have a solid organization to make standards on their own. They request the stakeholders to help them in making the standards, which they are through the process of certification. They try to certify those standards and then get it listed. So I think this is very good information you have shared with all the members. Thank you very much, and convey our regards to your seniors who asked you to come here for representing them. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Nair, I again thank you for your excellent talk. And Saurabh, can you just read out any questions you have for Dr. Nair? I'm sure a lot of people have. Because the way we need to pre-market survey, the way we need to assess each user's requirement before making any device or designing any device, I think that's very important issue which he has raised.
Yes, very rightly pointed out. We have few questions, and I think we have Dr. Jaya Shukla here. She posted a question, and I think she can ask right here, right now. Dr. Jaya?
Yes, hello. Yes, ma'am, it was a nice information. I just want to know, I have made microspheres for liver cancer therapy. So your draft says that it comes under medical device. So who can actually manufacture it? Whether it is a pharmaceutical company or a medical device company. So whom to contact for commercialization?
I need to check, because I need to check with the manufacturers, because what I had seen is it is actually a medical device manufacturing only. So it's a kind of a radioactive radiation.
No, what I have made is non-radioactive one, which can be radio labeled at the hospital pharmacy.
Okay. But still, I think it is under medical devices, because when I actually checked, I need to ask the manufacturer whether there are any manufacturers for similar products and things like that. But it is under medical device only.
Okay, one medical device company has approached, but they said it is a microsphere, so they are not sure whether they can manufacture it or not.
We need to, that is why we have to check with the
Right.
association. There has to be manufacturers. See, in a country which is 90%, 80% import dependent, we do not have many manufacturers and for many products. So we need to find out, see, whether it is a drug, because when I checked, when you asked me this question, I parallelly checked, and as there are some manufacturers that it is under medical device manufacturing only. Some guidelines are also listed under medical device only. Let me just check. That's why I kindly request you to check. So because sometimes the regulator has to clarify.
Okay, ma'am, one more question. What clinical studies I have done at PGI will be included in clinical, validation or not?
Why?
Clinically validated at PGI.
Yes.
At our institute. So whether these studies will be used for validation of device or not?
See,
or I have to go again for clinical trials.
No, generally this is product specific. That is why they have mentioned many things are sometimes depends on the risk classification also. And not for all those things, and which products, which calls for a clinical validation and everything. It's all there in that regulatory framework, because regulations you have to read were very specific. When they are not specific, we need to ask the regulators. For clinical trials, you need to get approval from the regulator also.
Okay, I have applied for that, but I didn't get any response now.
No, actually, she was here, Dr. Rubina. We could have asked. Anyhow, see, we need to ask them to create a facilitation cell for the startups. This is something which I have been saying. Most of these things sometimes are interpretation related, and sometimes clarity is not that the regulator has to clarify.
Okay, ma'am.
That is, it takes time. I fully agree, but we need to request for at least monthly one Q&A session with the regulators, and we need to have that kind of this thing. But what I can suggest is please send a mail. See, what normally I do is write to the association. Association sends clarifications.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Please send a mail and then let us see.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have a question. I don't know, Dr. Rama, that Madam Venugopal will be able will answer. Dr. Nair will be also like to answer. Now we are making a couple of equipments which has already been made abroad, and but to get it certified, either we go to CE or FDA, and which is very a long process. And when we go to an Indian BIS, they and we try to equate the international standards through BIS. The BIS has not, authorized those standards. I mean, the standards are existing, but the BIS has not put his stamp on that. So they ask us to get it checked as per standards which are not existing. So we are in a very difficult situation. And if we want to follow the other options they gave, okay, get it checked, but from where, they don't know. They say the industry should have in-house testing facility. I can't understand how the industry can have in-house testing facility. So at this point of time, when the testing facilities are not authorized by the BIS, only testing facilities have been authorized by CE or FDA, and those testing facilities are very costly. Where the small manufacturer can go? Do you have any? I hope I'm not confused with my problem.
Nice. Sir Suresh sir, you wanted to know? I can also answer at least what I know. Manufacturers, yes, BIS actually has got this requirement. It is not only for medical devices, sir. Technically, fundamentally, any manufacturer's facility should have a basic testing laboratory in-house, sir. This is there across the sectors. It is there in food sector. It is there. Very basic. What they say is when you manufacture, some routine testing, some basic testing, at least you should do it in-house. Very critical ones, specific ones, specialized ones, you can always go out. So it is one of the requirements of BIS. A manufacturer should have a very basic minimal lab also. So that is a requirement. BIS certification, when they certify the products, they have some protocols. And they also sometimes send this to a product company. We had seen this for PPEs when we didn't have many testing facilities. Some of the product certification, they had to send it only to the competitor's lab. And BIS was present there to do the witness and things like that. So that is one requirement. A manufacturer should have a very basic lab. But now a manufacturer cannot test all the products. That is why in my presentation I have mentioned there are 14 labs which are recognized by CDSCO where they can do the product evaluation and testing on behalf of the manufacturer. Now, your testing facility also, I have actually made a note of it. I wanted to send a mail because your testing lab and calibration lab, I would recommend that please complete accreditation process, NABL accreditation process. At least keep a timeline 6 months from now, 1 year from now, and get this recognized by CDSCO also. See, you can cater to that MSME businesses and small businesses. There are commercial labs. By and large, standalone labs are commercial labs. So their focus is different. And when you create some centers of excellence, your focus will be a little different. You can still do an excellent testing and excellent calibration at affordable rates.
Thank you. But till the time, this gray area, when you said there's a time period when we just register ourselves online, and that will be good enough.
See, what I am suggesting is, sir, because this is PGI Chandigarh, it is a DST hub. You can still see, because there is one norm with the regulators and government bodies. Government facilities, they don't insist on accreditation. Government institutions and centers of excellence. For private, yes, it is mandatory. I would recommend that there is a medical laboratory testing program is there. It is there in the regulations also. Please apply to CDSEO. They will send their officer for inspection. Let them come and visit. Let them say if there are any gaps, we will address it. But I would request very strongly that there are only 14 labs, sir, which are recognized. Please apply for the hub for your testing facilities. And this will be thrown open. All the manufacturers can even come and get everything tested here.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. You have given, I think, Dr. Joseph, we should follow that up. And just as a corollary to this, I just want to share information. In the recent COVID era, we were to buy equipment at a very short notice, and when the lockdowns were there, it was not possible to import equipment. So we had to purchase a lot of Indian equipment. That was a good part of that. But at the same time, fortunately, we had the testing facility.
Yes.
So number of those vendors, before we accepted the product, we started checking them, like syringe pumps, pulse oximeters. And we found a lot of discrepancy in that. And what they were claiming in their brochures, what that was not being reflected in the thing. And so we rejected. Initially they resented, but then when we showed and we said you can be put under some law that you are cheating the user by not testing, so then they disappeared. So I think this is very essential, and rather there should be in each region there should some sort of facilities, as Anna University has set up, we are setting up, so many other things are. So it's very essential for common medical equipment if we are going to come up with totally make in India dream.
Anna University also, hub also, sir, if you can allow me to say that, they're also here. They're also catering to mostly hospitals and things like that. But manufacturers also, you must throw open. Because now manufacturers will also see, because in-house calibration, sir, even when it comes to calibration, even manufacturers have to do basic calibration. So in-house calibration, they don't set up the laboratory. Even there there is an international standard accreditation. NABL has a standard for medical devices calibration also. See, it is not only to the services sector, even for manufacturing fraternity also, you can do both testing and calibration. And the message has to go, see, because as you rightly said, this is what I was saying. Simply the test reports are shown to the users. The users do not know, but at least you know many things you are testing, you know that things are not all right. When you question, they all ran away from the place. There's a lot of user education also required. When it is a hospital or a doctor, this is what Anna University has done. They have done extensive education. User education, and we need CDSEO, NABH together, sir. Please request for NABH. They are the accreditation body for hospitals and all other healthcare organizations in the country. 10,000 clinical establishments are there with certified, accredited by NABH in various forms, sir. More than 10,000 hospitals and other healthcare organizations. First, we have to educate them that, there are, get your equipments tested from here, That message has to go. They are also seeking the services and private and other things, commercial, thinking that all is well and all is good, sir, but it is not. That is what we are saying. And things there are things which are within the scope, and there are things which are outside the scope also, which users don't know. I have jotted down only two things. One point is requesting both the hubs to complete testing and calibration. I will send this medical devices testing requirements from CDSEO, sir, that regulatory document application and everything requirements I will mail you. We request you to get the hub accredited for both testing and calibration services. And one request I was telling Anita ma'am all the time is create, now it is virtual, sir. Everybody is accepting, even the hospitals and everywhere. Create a virtual e-marketplace. 365 days, our hubs, products, innovations, should be made available to the user industry, be it manufacturers who will come and look at for manufacturing tie-ups, or user industry for this thing, or industry coming forward some research collaborations with the hubs. 360 virtual e-marketplace. There has to be an online portal where we have to showcase our innovations, commercialized products, products which are ready for commercialization, calibration services. Virtual e-marketplace, 365 days, it should be up and live. Not a website, a virtual e-marketplace, a little more interactive in nature. That is something. And then we should do at least quarterly one pitch. If we are offering the services to the inviting innovations from the hospitals, inviting innovations from the doctors, offering some of the services to doctors and hospitals, there has to be at least quarterly one pitch session from the hub to the respective users, inviting manufacturers, inviting hospitals, doctors, pitching what the hubs are doing, sir, regularly, once in a quarter when we do it. There will be takers, there will be a lot of communication spread in the market. Those things we have to, these are all the go-to-market initiatives. We are doing so much, but we are discussing internally. It has to go out externally. This is what I want.
There were some initiatives taken up by Srijitra Institute, where something was not there. They are trying to build and then also get them sort of certified. Yeah.
Collaborations with hospitals, inviting doctors to come forward and participate in this collaborative engagement.
There were many devices which were approved under emergency use, during the COVID pandemic. So
yes,
can be built up.
That is why it is, and many things are possible, sir. And regular interactions are needed at least once in a quarter. That's all it is.
Thank you.
We need to engage more of BIS. BIS is actually on a war footing basis. They are completing all the standards, but still we have to call them once in a quarter. BIS, CDSCO, they have to come. Our pain points, we need to tell them. We need to push for one separate licensing or registration process for innovators and startups. This is something which I have told Anita ma'am, that normal route, normal process, it's all fine, but startups and innovators, let them give at least one more separate route where at least something can be processed quickly and faster. We should ask the regulator.
Dr. Joseph? Dr. Joseph?
There is one question from somebody I've seen asking one Mr. Saifuddin from Department of Pharmacology asking for preclinical studies of drugs. It is the same thing for medical devices also. Please read the MDR document. See, preclinical studies, maybe for some devices, for some low-risk devices and high-risk devices, the criteria is different. Please read the MDR document. It's a very detailed document.
Okay.
You can send a mail and I will also respond. I will just check and respond.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rama. Yes, I would like to.
Dr. Joseph, hai yahan pe?
Yes, sir. I think
Yes, sir. I'm avidly engaged and listening to the proceedings, sir. And I think on behalf of the hub, we are very grateful to Mrs. Rama Venugopal and also Dr. Suresh Nair, because we've had an excellent exposition of a lot of topics and issues which otherwise we were not considering before. So from my personal side and on behalf of the hub, a special thank you to both the experts and also to everyone who has been participating for the active engagement with questions and discussion points. I think we are leaving much more enriched. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think the 3 points which I summarize after this, Madam and Dr. Nair's this thing, that first we should get this hub accredited, and then whatever products which you are making, we should try to make standards for that. And we should ask the the government to, because as a government organization, we may be that NABL accreditation may not be needed. That exemption we should, and then educate our people around about the need for testing and try to help them in this way in this testing, so that we can find the lacunae in the equipment as well as make them understand the need for this regular testing. Thank you very much, and we should have, as Madam said, every couple of months we should have some meeting, and I'm sure we'll next 2-3 months we'll have again after getting some groundwork done for the further advice on these angles. Thank you very much, and thank you, Professor Huja, for joining. And if you have any final word, any comment for us, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Puri, and it was a really wonderful meeting and 2 excellent lectures. And now I also know a lot about these devices and how they're marketed and what are the regulations. And because as ma'am already mentioned too many times about European EU this laws and FDA, because I was in EU for last 30 years, so I know how the situation is there, and of course we keep on working on our side also to have such a kind of setups in India also. We should be eligible for to do that by our own also. That is my wish. And thanks again. And this was really very interdisciplinary meeting. And we are looking forward for more collaborations with all partners. And we will like to host all of you to come to IIT Ropar personally, not like this virtually. So, and we can have a lot of discussion on these kind of devices and manufacturing, and how we can, as IIT, we can put some information on this action. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are also looking to visit you, sir. And I am hoping that we will not have the third wave, and maybe another couple of months we'll make a visit, physical visit. Thank you very much, and everybody. And we'll look forward for everybody's cooperation and joining the next symposium or workshop, physical or virtual, whatever we'll have next 2-3 months. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.